The village lay swathed in a thick, swirling mist, as if the very air held secrets too heavy to escape. Narrow cobblestone paths wound between ancient timbered homes, their windows dimly glowing with candlelight. Life here moved slowly, wrapped in the careful routines of age-old customs, each dawn marked by the toll of the chapel bell, each dusk sealed by whispered prayers to unseen powers. At the hill's crest stood the old manor, its stone walls dark and weathered, crowned with tangled ivy. The villagers spoke of it in hushed tones, calling it a place of whispered power and shadowed tales. Some claimed it was a gateway between worlds, others a resting place for grudges long buried. Children dared not stray near after nightfall, and even the elders cast wary glances toward its looming silhouette, as if the manor itself watched them back. Elowen's arrival stirred the village's fragile calm like a sudden wind breaking the stillness. Cloaked in a heavy coat, her boots scuffed by the journey from the distant city, she carried more than just luggage. Grief clung to her like a shadow, and a silent storm of secrets trailed her steps. News of her father's sudden death had traveled fast, riding the whispers on every street corner. Some eyes narrowed, others softened, but all watched as the restless spirit came home. At the edge of the village square, an old woman murmured to a neighbor, "She carries the weight of sorrow deeper than the grave." Elowen paused before the manor's iron gates, heart pounding with memories she thought long buried. The past was not ready to let her go. Far above the village, atop the rugged hill, a solitary figure dwelled in a crumbling stone hut, the Tale Keeper. Cloaked in rough-spun robes with eyes sharp as a hawk's, he was a living enigma whispered about, in equal parts fear and respect. Stories told that he could peer beyond the veil of time, unravel the tangled threads of fate, and reveal sins hidden in the hearts of men. Some said he was touched by the divine, others that he was cursed to bear the village's darkest burdens, alone. Villagers avoided him, yet when faced with despair or doubt, they sought his counsel in secret, hoping for guidance in a world ruled by unseen forces. The Tale Keeper was no mere man. He was a guardian of balance, a living mirror reflecting the truths the village dared not face. Within the manor's cold stone walls, Elowen's family stood as a fortress of pride and suspicion. Her uncle, a stern man with a voice like grinding stones, ruled the estate with iron will and silent grudges. His eyes, hard as flint, bore into Elowen's soul, warning her to stay silent, to honor the unspoken laws of loyalty and tradition. Beside him moved her cousin, a young man whose watchful gaze flickered with mistrust and envy, as if every glance was a calculated strike. Their presence was a heavy weight pressing on Elowen's shoulders, a reminder of old wounds and unspoken resentments that had twisted through generations. "This is not your place," her uncle once warned, voice low and cold. But Elowen's heart beat with a restless fire. She would not be bound by shadows. In a dusty corner of the manor's study, Elowen uncovered her father's journal. Its leather cover cracked and worn, pages yellowed with age. The cryptic notes inside spoke of the Talekeeper's stories, of ancient curses and hidden sins woven into the village's fabric. Each entry hinted at truths buried beneath layers of silence, of debts owed and secrets guarded fiercely. As she turned the fragile pages, a chill ran through her fingers, for the words whispered of betrayals that had torn her family apart and of a reckoning long overdue. This journal was a key, a map through the darkness that had clouded her past, beckoning her to unravel the tangled threads. Night fell heavy and silent, yet Elowen could not escape the haunting whispers that stirred in the shadows of the manor. Voices rose like a spectral choir, carrying fragments of forgotten tales and sorrowful confessions. They slipped through the cracks in the walls, wrapping around her like a cold embrace. "Face us," they seemed to say, "for these are the truths you must claim." Her dreams were haunted by flickering images of her father's haunted eyes, her mother's silent grief, and the tangled legacy she had inherited. The village itself seemed caught between fear of the curse and a desperate yearning for the truths that might heal or destroy them. At the crossroads of fate, Elawin stood torn, between the village's ancient silence and the restless call of her own heart. Could she abide by the old laws, by the fear that demanded shadows remain unchallenged? Or should she seek the truth, no matter the cost? The talekeeper's stories loomed before her like a dark mirror, reflecting not only the sins of her family but the very threads of her destiny. "Does this tale merely know my secrets?" she whispered to the wind. "Or does it hold the power to shape my fate forever?" With a steady breath, she stepped forward, ready to face the storm that awaited her beyond the mist. Elowin's return to the manor stirred a tempest beneath its stone walls that had long seemed calm. The years of quiet obedience her family had demanded cracked like ancient glass as her footsteps echoed through the cold halls. Her uncle's voice, harsh and unyielding, rang sharp through the air one evening as he confronted her by the hearth. "Remember your place, Elawin," he warned, his eyes like flint. "Loyalty is the chain that binds us all, and silence the shield that guards this house." Yet beneath his stern words lay old wounds, unspoken and festering, breaking open with each defiant glance she dared to cast. The household, once a place of ordered routine, now trembled under the weight of resentments that time had not healed. Whispers slid between the walls, a chorus of fear and anger as the fragile balance of family tradition began to unravel before her very eyes. In the shadowed corners of the village, Elowin found unexpected allies. Young minds, restless and sharp, skeptical scholars who dared to question the old ways. They gathered in secret beneath the twisted branches of ancient oaks, voices low but fierce with hope. "Why should fear bind us like chains?" one would ask, while another replied, "Truth is a light, no matter how deeply it's buried." Their curiosity was a flame in the dark, illuminating paths toward forgotten histories and forbidden knowledge. Together, they whispered of rebellion against superstition, of stories lost to time that could free their people from the weight of old curses. Elawin felt a spark of kinship among these restless hearts, a quiet promise that she was not alone in her search for the truth. The journal she had discovered in her father's study became a dark lantern, casting flickering shadows on the past. Page by page it bled secrets, debts hidden in shadow, loves lost and betrayed, scandals buried beneath polite smiles and curt nods. Each entry was a thread in a tangled tapestry of family faults and village sins, weaving unrest beneath the surface calm. As she read, Elawin could almost hear the whispers growing louder, voices rising from the pages to challenge the silence that had long cloaked the manor. "They think the past is dead," she murmured one night, "but it lives in these words, and it will not rest until it's known." The journal's revelations unsettled more than just her heart. They stirred a storm that threatened to break free and consume them all. The talekeeper, once merely a shadow on the hill, revealed himself as more than a hermit cloaked in mystery. He stood as judge and guardian of balance, his presence a living mirror reflecting the inner darkness of those who sought his stories. His voice carried the weight of chivalric honor and divine retribution, his tales demanding reckoning for sins long denied. When Elawin sought him out beneath a star-blanketed sky, his gaze pierced through her veil of doubt. "Every soul must face its own reflection," he said quietly. "Justice is not a sword wielded by the strong alone, but the burden of truth that sets us free or breaks us." In his stories, she glimpsed her own family's faults, their pride and failings laid bare beneath the cold light of judgment. One night, beneath a silvered moon, Elawin encountered the shape-shifting wolf, a dark, shifting shadow that stalked the forest's edge. It was no mere beast, but a living symbol of fear and guilt, relentless and ever-changing, testing her resolve. Its eyes gleamed with ancient sorrow and accusation, and as it circled her, Elowen felt the weight of all her buried doubts pressing upon her chest. "Face me," it seemed to demand, "or be forever lost to the shadows." Gathering her courage, she met its gaze and spoke, voice steady despite the trembling within. "I will not run. The sins I bear are mine to bear, and to redeem." In that spectral trial, she summoned a hidden strength, a flicker of hope amidst the encroaching darkness, knowing the path ahead would be fraught with peril but also promise. Caught between the heavy chains of feudal loyalty and her burning quest for truth, Elowen wrestled with a torment that gnawed at her very soul. The village's ancient social fabric trembled as loyalties fractured like brittle twigs beneath a storm. Neighbors whispered of betrayal, and old alliances cracked beneath the weight of secrets clawing toward the light. Why must truth come? At such a cost? She wondered aloud, torn between honoring the traditions that had shaped her and breaking free to forge a new path. The tension simmered, a slow-burning fire threatening to consume the fragile peace the village had known for generations. Each choice carried the weight of consequence, and Elowen knew the reckoning was drawing near. Beneath the uncle's stern exterior lay a heart twisted by pride and regret. His ambition to maintain control of the estate masked a deeper torment, one born from wounds that time had not healed. When he confronted Elowen late one evening, his voice cracked with the strain of old sorrow. "This feud, it is not merely about power," he confessed in a rare moment of vulnerability. "It is the price we pay for mistakes made long ago. Mistakes that bind us like chains we cannot break." Their growing conflict was not just a clash of wills, but a mirror of the past's unresolved pain. As they stood facing one another, a reckoning loomed, a storm that could shatter the fragile walls of family pride or cleanse them through the fire of truth. The night sky was torn by thunder as Elowen crossed the threshold of the manor. The heavy wooden door groaning like a beast disturbed from slumber. Inside, shadows clung to the ancient stone walls, thick with whispered legends and secrets too long buried. The air was dense, alive with the weight of fate pressing down on every corner of the great hall. Candles flickered, casting twisted shapes that seemed to move with a life of their own, as if the manor itself held its breath for the reckoning to come. Elowen's heart pounded like the storm outside, knowing that the enigmatic talekeeper awaited her in the depths of the house, where hidden truths would rise from silence and strike like lightning, revealing what no one had dared to speak for generations. The talekeeper stepped forward, his voice a low rumble, weaving stories sharp as swords that cut through the thick fog of lies and silence. He spoke of loyalty once pure, now shattered like brittle glass, of betrayals so deep they cleaved blood ties apart. Each tale unraveled the dark fabric that cloaked Elowen's family, exposing sins painful and raw. "In shadows lie the reasons. For your father's fall," the talekeeper intoned, eyes burning with ancient wisdom. "The ruin you bear is no accident, but a consequence long hidden beneath the weight of pride and silence." Elowen listened, her soul trembling as the harsh reality settled within her, the cruel truth behind her father's death and the collapse of all she held dear. From the darkness, the shape-shifting wolf emerged, an eerie creature not made of flesh but forged from the family's broken oaths and the heavy legacy of guilt. Its form flickered like smoke, eyes glowing with sorrow and accusation. It prowled not with savage claws, but with the relentless pressure of fear and unspoken wrongs. The wolf circled Elowen, its presence a haunting reminder of all that she must confront. "Face me," it seemed to whisper with every step, "or be lost forever to the shadows of your own making." Elowen steadied herself, drawing on a well of courage she had not known she possessed, ready to meet this embodiment of her family's curse and the darkness it brought. But Elowen did not answer with sword or anger. Instead, she spoke softly, confessing her own faults and the burden she carried. "I have been blind to my own pride," she admitted, her voice steady despite the storm within. "I accept the past, not to seek revenge, but to find peace." Her humble confession echoed the ancient pilgrim's penance, a sacred act of turning away from vengeance and opening a path toward healing. In that moment, the air shifted. What once felt like a battlefield became a place of quiet reckoning, where wounds could begin to close and hope might take root. As the shadow of the wolf receded, a deep stillness settled over the manor. The curse that had gripped Elowen's family and the village for so long began to unravel like mist at dawn. The oppressive silence that had hung over the house lifted, replaced by a breath of renewal, fragile yet real. Walls that had seemed cold and unyielding now held a promise, a chance for peace to grow where bitterness had once reigned. Elowen felt the weight of the darkness lift, replaced by a quiet strength that whispered of new beginnings. When dawn's first light spilled through the high windows, Elowen stood before those gathered, her voice clear and full of resolve. "I vow to restore trust within our family and village," she declared, "to honor our traditions while embracing the changes we need." Her oath carried the weight of chivalric ideals, justice tempered with mercy, strength balanced by compassion. It was a pledge not only to the past but to the future, a promise to heal the fractured bonds that had long divided them. In that pledge, the seeds of hope were sown, setting the stage for a new chapter where old customs and fresh beginnings might walk hand in hand. The village, once silenced by fear and shadowed by the long curse, began to stir as if waking from a deep, troubled sleep. Slowly, the old rhythms of life returned, the chatter of children in the square, the soft clang of blacksmith's hammer, and the scent of fresh bread drifting from the ovens. Yet, beneath this rebirth, whispers of the past lingered like a distant song, gentle reminders of the pain once endured. The villagers gathered cautiously, drawn by Elowen's calm presence and the promise she bore to transform the manor. No longer a fortress of secrets and sorrow, it would become a sanctuary where stories, both sorrowful and joyful, would weave the fabric of healing. In this new dawn, hope kindled quietly in hearts once heavy with despair, as trust took its first tentative steps forward. Elowen moved through the manor's grand halls, her hands brushing against walls that had long held silence and sorrow. With care, she invited neighbors and kin alike to share their tales, whether bright with laughter or heavy with shadow. The manor's stones, once cold and forbidding, began to echo again, now with voices that carried tears and smiles alike. This house of stories was no longer a place of fear, but a refuge where shadows could be faced together and broken hearts might find comfort in the strength of communal memory. "Here, we find our past, so we may heal and walk forward," Elowen said softly, her eyes shining with quiet resolve. Though old wounds had left their scars, Elowen's family dared to take the first steps toward forgiveness. In small, unspoken acts, a helping hand, a shared meal, a nod of understanding, they bridged the divides carved by years of betrayal. The path was slow and uncertain, but beneath the weight of past wrongs, the balm of kindness and renewed loyalty began to soften hardened hearts. It was proof that even the deepest betrayals might yield to the quiet power of healing and time. The tale itself whispered its final truth. Courage, the light that pierces darkness, is the key to redemption. Elowen, standing in the manor's great hall, lit a single candle whose steady flame flickered against the shadows. "This flame," she murmured, "will guide us through the night, bridging the darkness of what was with the promise of what can be." The candle's glow became a beacon of hope, a silent vow that no matter the darkness endured, the courage to face hidden truths would always light the way toward a brighter future.